in the form I-864, which is Affidavit of Support. And this is the expiration date of this form, March 31st, 2020. Okay, this first part is going to be for USCIS use. We don't do anything in this area. Part 1, basis for filing affidavit of support. In this section, we are writing down the sponsor's name, the person that is submitting this affidavit of support for the immigrant. For example, I am giving this affidavit of support to a family member. So that means I am the sponsor. My name goes here. I am the sponsor submitting this affidavit of support because select only one box. We are going to select only one of these. If you are the petitioner of this immigrant, you are going to mark right here. If you are the joint sponsor, then you are selecting this one right here if you are the only joint sponsor. If you have more than one joint sponsors, so you have to indicate who is filling out this affidavit of support. If you are the first, joint sponsored, or if you are the second joint sponsored. Note, if you are filing this form as a sponsor, you must include proof of your U.S. citizenship, U.S. national status, or lawful permanent resident status. Part 2. Information about the principal immigrant. The principal immigrant is the person that is trying to get the green card, which is the beneficiary. Okay, and we continue with part 2, information about the principal immigrant mailing address. Okay, and this section is going to be for the immigrant. So all the information about the immigrant, which is the name and the address, street number, apartment, suite, floor, city or town, and if this immigrant is living outside of United States, then you are going to use the 2G, province, postal code, and country. Other information and the same other information, all these and this section, it's for the principal immigrant. Okay, so this would be the country of citizenship or nationality, and then the birthday, and then the alien registration number. This number refers to identification number issued by the immigration authorities. And remember, all this is for the principal immigrant, not for the sponsor, okay? And then the USCIS online account number. If the beneficiary, the immigrant, has a bank account, online bank account with the USCIS, write it down here. You remember, you can open an online account with the USCIS anytime. You just go to the website, and I don't know if I have a video about how to open a USCIS online account, but I'm gonna check, and if I don't have one, I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's easy to create one. If you don't have anything, just put NA or, yeah, NA. Don't leave anything blank. and then the phone number. And all these that I'm telling you is about the principal immigrant, okay, not the sponsor. Part 3, information about the immigrants you are sponsoring. There we go. And this section, number 1, I am sponsoring the principal immigrant name in part 2. So let's see who is the immigrant in part 2. So that person's name would be this person, the one you know, the name you wrote down here. All right. So in this part 3, you state which individual or individuals you are choosing to sponsor. You may have requested to sponsor only the principal immigrant, or you may have been requested to sponsor additional immigrants, individuals that are immigrating with a principal immigrant. In most circumstances, you will answer yes to this question. You will answer no only if there were 2 or more joint sponsors and you were not sponsoring the principal immigrant. Number 2, I'm sponsoring the following family members immigrating at the same time or within 6 months of the principal immigrant name in part 2. Do not include any relative listed on a separate visa petition. Number 3, I am sponsoring the following family members who are immigrating more than 6 months after the principal immigrant. And if that's the case, you will have to write down all the information for the family members in these sections. Part 3, information about the immigrants you are sponsoring. Continue. Enter the total number of immigrants you are sponsoring on this affidavit, which includes the principal immigrant listed in Part 2, any immigrants listed in Part 3, item number 1 through 28, and, if applicable, any immigrants listed for these questions in Part 11. Additional information. Do not count the principal immigrant if you are only sponsoring a family members entering more than 6 months after the principal immigrant. And then you count whoever you are sponsoring and write the number right here. And part 4 is information about the sponsor. And this pretty much asks basic information about you. Okay, so like your full name, your address, etc. And if you have been asked to complete this form, you almost certainly live in United States. But yeah, this is for the sponsor. Okay, and the sponsor's mailing address. All about the sponsor. And then here, is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? Yes or no? If you answer no to item number 3, provide your physical address in item number 4A through 4H. Okay, so let's go over here. And here it is, sponsor, physical address, other information, country of domicile, birthday, city, town of birth, state of province of birth, country of birth, U.S. Social Security number required. You have to write it down. You must write it down. And then here is asking if you are the sponsor, if you are a U.S. citizen or a national or a lawful permanent resident, and you have to check which one apply to you. And then here, sponsors A number, if any. If you have an A number, you write it down here. And then if you have a USCIS online account, write it here. If you don't worry, just put NA. Military service to be completed by petitioner. Sponsor only, is not for the joint sponsor. Number 14, I am currently on active duty in the U.S. Armed Force or U.S. Coast Guard. Yes or no? So, if you are the sponsor, the joint sponsor, though this does not apply to you, it's only for the petitioner. But do not leave it in blank, just put no if you are the joint sponsor. Okay, let's continue with part number 5. Sponsors household size. In this section, it's important to read the instructions very well. Note, do not count any members of your household more than once, okay? And then provide the number you enter in part 3, item 29. Person not sponsored in this affidavit. Number 2, this is gonna be for yourself. You put 1 for yourself. And then number 3, if you are currently married, enter 1 for your spouse. Number 4, if you have dependent children, enter the number in here. Number 5, if you have any other dependents, enter it here. 6, if you have sponsored any additional persons on Form I-864 or Form I-864-EZ who are not lawful permanent resident, enter the number here. Who are now lawful permanent residents. So if you somebody asks you to do the 1-864-EZ in the past, and these immigrants are now a lawful permanent resident, you have to write down how many you support with the affidavit of support. And then optional, if you have siblings, parents, or adult children with the same principal residency who are combining their income with yours by submitting Form I-864A, enter the number here. Number 8, add together Part 5, item number 1 through 7, and enter the number here. And this is going to be the total household size. And to determine if your income is sufficient to serve as a sponsor, the Immigration Service they have to know your legal household size. There are technical rules about who counts as your household members. When completing this section, you count a person only once. Remember, don't count them twice. And I just want to make sure this is clear for you. And this number 7, this is optional. Okay, and the reason to include this individual in is if you want to count their income for purpose of this form. If so, they will need to complete an additional form called the Form I-864A. Okay? But if you don't want to add these family members that lives in your house, but you don't want to add them here because you are not using their income for the purpose of this form, and these people could be your parents, brothers, sisters, or adults over 21 years, you don't have to write down the number if you are not using their income. This is optional. Okay? Clear? Part 6. Sponsor employment and income. This is an extremely important section of the form. Most problems with the Form I-864 comes from incorrect answers on this section. So be very careful when you fill out this part. So I am currently, and you have to mark what's your case, your situation, employed as and you have to write down all the info. And this is for your employment or an income, employment and income. Okay, so let's move on. 444. Let's go up here. And then they give us different choices, as you see. You have to pick the one that applies to you. If you are employed, you have to put the employer's name, employers first, the first employer, the second one if applicable. If you are self-employed, like you have your own company, right here. And then if you are already retired, and you have to write down here the date, month, day, and year when you retire. Or if you are an employee, the same, you have to write down month, day, and year. Number 7. And here you have to write down your current individual annual income in this section. And let's move on. Income you are using from any other person who has counted in the household. Oh, the household, where is the household? Somewhere. Including in certain conditions the intending immigrants. Okay? If you have any questions, you can see the form in the Form I-864 instructions for more details. Please indicate name, relationship, and income. And we write down the information of that person. Person 1, person 2, person 3. If that's the case, if it's not, just write down NA. Person 4. Name, relationship, and income. And we move on to part 6. Let's see. Part 6. Alright. Sponsors, employment, and income continues. Number 20. My current annual household income. Then you have to write down here what's the number. Your current annual household income. 21. The people listed in item numbers 8 through 11, 14, and 17 have completed Form I-864A I am filing along with this affidavit of all necessary form I-864As completed by these people. 22. One or more of the people listed in the item numbers 8, 11, 14, and 17 do not need to complete form I-864A because he or she is the intending immigrant and has not accompanying dependents. So, whatever is your case, you select the one that applies in this situation. Federal income tax return information. And here you have to write down, have you filed a federal income tax return for each of the three most recent tax years? If you say yes here, no here. Note, you must attach a photocopy or transcript of your federal income tax return for only the most recent tax year. So, you see, the most recent tax year. Before, immigration asks for the 3 years, you know, for 3 years. Right now, they're asking only for the most recent one. Okay, 23B. This is optional. I have attached a photocopy of transcripts of my federal income tax returns for my second and third most recent tax years. That's optional. They only require the most recent one. But if you want to attach the other 2 years, you click on here too and attach them. But you don't have to, okay? You only require to present the most recent tax year. My total income adjusted gross income on Internal Revenue Service IRS Form 1040EZ as reported on my federal income tax return for the most recent 3 years was, and you are going to write down here the gross income and the tax year, okay? You can write down first, second, and third, most recent ones. Okay, let's see. 25. I was not required to file federal income tax return as my income was below the IRS required level, and I have attached evidence to support this. So if you don't have enough money, you didn't do your income taxes because you pretty much did almost nothing. So you have to click in here and also attach evidence of this. Okay, let's continue with the part 7th. Part 7th. Use of assets to supplement income. This is optional. You need to complete this section of the form only if you reported income in Part 6 as less than 125% of the federal poverty. Guidelines for your household size. And you have to check the guidelines to see if your income is good enough and you don't need anything else. But if you want to add some more additional, supplement income, you can just do this part. Okay? All this is for that. All this is the same. And part 7, use of asset is supplement income. Continue. Same. Okay. But you don't have to do that. I mean, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I will rather look for a sponsor that qualifies to be a sponsor with his or her income. You know, because if he's a sponsor, I don't think a sponsor wants to put more information about their bank accounts, their properties, if they own a house or they have money in the bank or a brand new Mercedes-Benz, or I don't know. I don't think they want to provide more information. So I think they are doing you a huge favor by reporting their, you know, income from their own job. So that would be just fine if they can qualify with that. All right, let's continue. Part 7, use of assets to supplement income. This is optional, and this part continues from the one up there. So you have to add up together numbers 6 through 8 and enter the number here. And here total value or assets 10. Add together item number 4, 5B, and 9 and enter here the total. Okay, let's go to part 8. Almost done. I'm getting a headache. The sponsor's contract. So you read all this. Pretty much is information about what's gonna be the, you know, obligation, or what's gonna be your responsibility by signing this form. Okay, so pretty much is that you're gonna be responsible for this immigrant, either for until this immigrant becomes a U.S. citizen, or after this person complete a certain amount of points that he accumulate or she accumulate by working. So pretty much it's like 10 years or so. So yeah, so read all this, because this has a big responsibility by signing this form. You have to be supporting this immigrant in case this person is not working or it's about to ask for public help. It's gonna become a public charge to the government, and the government doesn't want that. That's why you are signing this form, to be responsible for this immigrant or immigrants. Okay, so after you read all that, don't forget you need to sign this affidavit of support, and we move on to part 8, contract statement, contact information, declaration, certification, and signature. Continue. All right, just read all that. You know what's about, all your obligations and all the responsibilities, etc. So, note, select the box for either item number 1A or 1B, if applicable. Select the box for item number 2. Number 1A, I can read, understand English, and I have read, understand every question and instructions of this affidavit and my answer to every question. Okay, so that means that you pretty much know what you're signing. You pretty much know everything that you answer, everything that you read, and this affidavit of support. So you click on it. Okay, let's move on. Oh my goodness, I'm getting hungry, friends. I'm getting a headache. Okay, almost done. We can do this. AB, the interpreter, name and part 9. So if you use an interpreter, someone that help you to fill out this form, so that person is gonna be in part 9. Reads to me every question and instructions of this affidavit and my answers to every question and you have to put the language in which this person, this interpreter, read it to you. Number 2, at my request, the preparer name in part 10. So someone prepare this form for you. You are writing down that name of that person in here. This is the one that read to you, and this is the one that prepared it for you. Okay, so sponsors, contact information. This is the sponsor information, daytime telephone number, and mobile telephone number, and the email address. And sponsor declaration and certification. So you can read all that. I'm not gonna read it to you because I'm getting tired and I'm getting a headache and I want to be done with this. I think you know pretty much what's about, and it's like you certify under penalty of perjury that all of the information in my affidavit and any document submitted with it were provided or authorized by me, by you, by the sponsor, that I review and understand all of the information contained in and submitted with my affidavit, and that all of this information is complete, true, and correct. So it's all about that. So you read all that, and then let's continue over here. Continue part 8. Each of the federal income tax returns submitted in support of this affidavit are true copies or are unaltered tax transcripts of the tax returns I file with the IRS. I understand that if I am related to the sponsored immigrant by marriage, the termination of the marriage by divorce, dissolution, annulment, or other legal process will not relieve me for my obligation under this Form I-864, and so pretty much if you get divorced, if you are married with this person, you want to continue with the obligations, not because you got divorced. If this person go to the public assistance, you want to be responsible no matter what. I authorize the Social Security Administration to release information about me in its records to the USCIS and DOS. And then the sponsor's signature goes here, 6A. So print it out and sign it. use black ink. And then you date it, the day when you sign this form, you date it. Okay. Note to all sponsors: if you do not completely fill out this affidavit or fail to submit required documents listed in the instructions, USCIS or DOS may deny your affidavit. So make sure when you send this affidavit of support, it's gonna be with all the documents that you have to submit with this form. Okay, otherwise they're gonna deny this affidavit. Okay. Part 9. Interpreters, contact information, certification, and signature. If you have an interpreter, someone that did this for you, you wanna put all that person information in this area. If you did it yourself, you don't forget about the interpreter, forget about all the people that write down for you, whatever. No. So you did it yourself, just NA, and all this. Interpreter's mailing address. So all the information about this person. Interpreter's contact information. Interpreter's certification. I certified under penalty of perjury that I am fluent in English and what other language? Write it down. Blah, 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 yeah. So, and here that person has to sign and date. Sign and date it. Okay, and then in here is the same contact information declaration and signature of the person preparing this affidavit, if other than the sponsor. Someone did it for you, so that person's information goes in this section. All this is for the preparer. All this, okay? All this is for that person. Continues here. Continues, and that person has to sign and date it. And let's see what else. Okay, part 11. Additional information. They offer us this section in case that we didn't have enough space in the form and we need to add additional information about one section of the application of the form. So we have to write it down in this area. They give us part 11 for additional information. If you need extra space to provide any additional information within this affidavit, use the space below. If you need more space than what is provided, you may make photocopies of this page to complete and file with this affidavit, or attach a separate sheet of paper. Type or print your name and the A number if applicable. At the top of each sheet, indicate the page number, part number, and item number to which your answer refers, and sign and date each sheet. And here is gonna be additional information about the sponsor. So of course, and a number, and then if you have any other information that you didn't have a space in the other area of the form, you have all these to write it down. And this is the end of this tutorial. I hope this helped you understanding what areas needs to be completed by the sponsor filling out this affidavit of support on behalf of an immigrant or immigrants. Okay, friends, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and remember that always check the newest version of this form. They do update the forms from time to time, but right now this is the most current one, so they don't have any other one. This expire in March 31st, 2020. So this is brand new. So you can use this one. Okay. See you next time. Have a wonderful time, wonderful day. Bye-bye.